Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Spiritism Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm very happy to host today's talk by LUIZ LIMA, who will be leading our live with the theme Spiritist Hierarchy. Before we get to LUIZ, I have two announcements. There is a weekly podcast-like series, you may have heard of it, but it's a weekly podcast-like series called Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. There is a new episode every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks based on the works of Joanna de Angelis will cover a safe space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand spirituality concepts from a psychological lens, bringing insights, actionable tips, and real-life advice to help you lead a better life. Please subscribe to receive notifications of new episodes at the USSF YouTube channel. On the screen, please note there is a QR code. If you want to help the USSF promote more publications and promote Spiritism to everyone, please scan the QR code for your donation. By the way, if you were not able to see the recent U.S. Spiritist Symposium in Portland, Oregon on September 30th, recordings of all of the presentations and the entire program are also available on the USSF YouTube channel. Now, back to LUIZ. Together with everyone who is watching this live, I want to give you a very warm welcome. It is so good to have you here to talk about Spiritist Hierarchy. Before he starts to enlighten us in the next hour, please allow me to introduce him more formally. LUIZ LIMA has begun his journey in Spiritism since 1990. As a serious researcher on the scientific aspect of Spiritism in both languages, Portuguese and English, Mr. Lima is a renowned lecturer in the Spiritist movement and participates in local and national seminars and events all year round. LUIZ Lima holds a degree in electronic engineering, and he works in the computer industry, network industry. Hi, LUIZ. How are you doing?
Good, Peter. Thank you so much for having us today.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Good. So please take this opportunity to send your questions during the presentation using the chat window. LUIZ has reserved time to address your comments and questions once he concludes his presentation. LUIZ, it is all yours, and I'll be happy to join you later.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for having us today. It's a pleasure to be here. And we are going to address this topic, Spiritist Hierarchy. This is actually a good part of the Spirit's book. It goes from question 100 through 113. And for some reason, I'm talking about experience going through all these years, talking Spiritism in different places for different groups. It's something that we don't really give all the importance that we should, to my knowledge. So I wanted to bring this over here, discuss what it is and how can we use this in our own favor. It's probably the greatest hidden tool in Spiritism, but we don't use it as we should. So what is this? How did it all start? It all starts on the Spirit's book, first edition. Just make sure first edition has 501 questions. As of the second edition, which we have widely used so far, then we have 1,019 questions. So first edition, 501 questions. There's a question that Allan Kardec brings up, which is, are all the spirits equal? And the spirits respond, well, they have different orders. So Allan Kardec takes this answer and goes to the next question, which is 54A. If there are different orders, what is the difference based in? So he asked that, what's the difference, what makes a difference between spirits? And the answer is, in the degree of perfection they have reached. So it has to do with degree of perfection. It has to do with being more or less advanced. And then he goes for a next question. Well, you're talking about different orders. Now, is there a number of orders or not really? And the spirits respond, there's not really a number of orders. It's unlimited, because you can't think of this as mathematical classification, from 0 to 1, 1 to 2. It's not something like this. We're going to go through and see how it goes. So they say the number is unlimited. However, to make it easier for you, we're going to start with 3 principal orders, so which we're going to be talking about in a minute. So with this answer, Allan Kardec understands that there's a Spiritist hierarchy. So there are spirits that are more advanced than others. And based on that, he then creates with the spirits what came to be known as the spirit scale. And this is a great tool. So our emphasis today is to discuss the spirit scale and how to use it on our favor. Okay, so what exactly is this Spiritist scale? It's a classification of spirits according to their moral behavior, right? So it has to do with moral standards. What's the criteria that makes it, so you can classify or group spirits based on their moral? So number 1, morality itself. Number 2, the acquired qualities of the spirits. And number 3, the imperfections that still have to be eliminated. These 3 things form the basic criteria that's going to be used for classifying these spirits. And what's the objective? Why are we doing this? Why is Allan Kardec even concerned about this? Because, and I think that's the answer that we don't grasp so much, and we don't study this, to my knowledge, the extent that we should. So the objective is for us to understand the interaction of spirits in different orders. We are here interacting and having relationships with different spirits, incarnated and discarnated, but we are all in different orders. And that creates confusion. That creates a lot of trouble. And we are going to detail this a little bit more. So in 1857, first edition of the Spirit's book, they bring this classification that we see here. I'm using color shades and colors to make it easier. So they give us an inferior in shades of red, inferior part of the scale, then a mid-range, then a top range. So the red ones are spirits who are not so much advanced. The green ones are much better, much more advanced. And the first order, blue ones, are perfected spirits. Now, this is in the first edition of the Spirit's book. As he goes along, he keeps, asking more questions, which are going to be published on the second edition later. And he starts questioning, this is not enough. We need more blocks, if you will, looking at the visual of the scale. We need a better, more detailed classification. So in the Spiritist Review, less than a year later, he proposes and discusses with the spirit another classification, which is much more detailed, that you see here on your screen. Same principle. The shades of red are spirits at the lower part of the scale, less advanced. Green, shades of green, spirits are more advanced, and pure spirits on the top in blue. And then when he's going to publish the second edition, he makes one addition to this scale. However, think about this. The Spirit's book is not a graphic, visual book like what we're doing here. So he's just describing number 1, number 2, number 3, and so and so. So he introduces something called disturbing spirits. But then he will detail and say, disturbing spirits is not a classification by itself, but these are spirits that are scattered throughout the 4 bottom categories and shades of red. So for us, visually, that's what we're going to do here today. Visually, it doesn't make sense to use disturbing spirits as a category. So we are going to stick to this category, these categories here, and that's what we're going to use for our analysis. So let's put this thing on a corner. It's going to stay there for a little bit on the screen as we go along. Okay, what's the basic difference? We're not going to talk about each one of these blocks today. We're going to talk about groups. So the group in the bottom, shades of red, Allan Kardec makes this third order spirits, imperfect spirits. What are imperfect spirits? What are the characteristics? First of all, and maybe the most important here, predominance of material life over spiritual life. So third order spirits or imperfect spirits have all their focus, all their emphasis in material life, not moral life, not spiritual life. These spirits have a tremendous propensity to do evil because of their level of ignorance. So it's almost like doing evil. It's in their DNA, if you will, right? And it's kind of the first choice. Let's do evil. Let's do evil. Tremendous propensity to do evil. Another characteristic here is these spirits have a vague intuition about God, but they can't explain. They cannot really understand and explain. So there's this vague intuition. And another characteristic here that we mentioned previously is these disturbing spirits that are really scattered in the four categories that you see here from bottom to top: impure, frivolous, pseudo-learned, and neutral. You see numbers by each block. These are the numbers of the questions on the Spirit's book that will talk about each of these blocks. So Spirit's book question 102 talks about impure spirits, 103 about frivolous, and so and so and so. So these are third order spirits. What about the green spirits? They are called second order spirits or good spirits. And the main characteristic goes frontally against third order spirits. The predominance here is of spiritual life over material life. So moral life, spiritual life is more important for these spirits than material life. Another interesting thing is there is no propensity to do evil at all, like on the third order spirits. However, the point here is the desire to do good. They want to do good all the time. That's what they want to, that's their motivation, to do good. And third, and also very interesting, is they have knowledge and moral qualities, and they use both together. That might seem a little bit silly, but if you take the idea down to the third order spirits are us living on Earth, one of the planets where third order spirits are housed. Some of us, we do have knowledge. You can tell by the level of technology that we were able to achieve so far. So we do have knowledge. We do have some, for some of us, moral qualities, even if it's not all that great, but we do have some. However, we don't put them together. So we use our knowledge to destroy things, to destroy cities and buildings and everything. We use it for destruction. Second order spirits will never do this. They will bond their knowledge to the moral qualities that they have, and they will build and constructive things. They will do nice things with it. Once again, you see on the right side of each shade of green block, the number of the question on the Spirit's book where this is addressed. And finally, at the top of the scale, we have pure spirits, or also called first order spirits. These spirits are, they have reached perfection. They have absolutely moral and intellectual superiority compared to any other on the scale. they do not need to reincarnate as a matter of improvement. They do not need to. They only incarnate when needed as a mission. So Jesus, for example, is the one. Let's talk about some of the green spirits, shades of green. We have Gandhi, we have Chico Xavier, the medium in Brazil. We have Mother Teresa, Divaldo Franco, also in Brazil. These are spirits that bring all this. It's natural for them to be more preoccupied, more interested in developing their spiritual life than material life. Most of the spirits on earth, the great majority, are third order spirits. Occasionally we have one of these spirits from the second order showing up, but for the most part, we are third order spirits. The earth is a place for third order spirits. So we know what our destination is, to be pure, perfected spirits. One day, of course, it's going to take time and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's not, but it's a known thing. We're going to get there one day. Of course, it requires our efforts and free will also. But for now, we're not there yet. So we, here on earth, we have our spiritual habitat over here on earth. So you are on earth, I am on earth. However, you're going to find on the planet spirits from all orders incarnated at the same time, all at the same time. So, for example, you're going to have a time where on the planet you have at the same time, let's say Gandhi and Hitler, both at the same time. And it goes on and on. I could give you many, many examples. That's not the point. We're just trying to show a concept here. So we have on the planet, on our spiritual habitat, spirits from different orders. And that makes things a little bit complicated because not all of us are on the same level. If we were all absolutely on the same level, for example, if we were all frivolous, it wouldn't be so complicated. But no, we have different spirits from different orders living on the planet all at the same time. So how many are we? Well, you got to count the discarnate spirits. So we are 25 plus billion spirits on earth. However, don't forget, most of them, the great majority, is in shades of red. We are third order spirits. So the spirits that are discarnate right now, the great majority is also, they are also third order spirits. So as they incarnate, as they have the opportunity of incarnation to keep going on their development, they will be incarnated as whatever, impure spirits, frivolous, pseudo-learned, all of those things. So we always, it's always a common question that we get is, isn't it getting worse? It depends on how you see. However, if all these discarnate spirits have to incarnate first, yes, you will get worse, depending on how you see it, but for better. It's a necessary evil that has to happen because these spirits will incarnate if they don't make it in terms of morality, if they don't make it to the bottom level of the planet in terms of morality, they are going to be, sent somewhere else. They are not going to be able to reincarnate on the planet. So the biggest problem that we have, I think, as spirits incarnated on earth is understanding this mix. So sometimes the news are not very good. We see war here and there. We see, all kinds of atrocities and cruelties. And it is a natural tendency for third order spirits to revolt, to, I want to kill these people. They should all be, massacred, because we're not understanding the basics, the logic of how this works. And the spirit scale, visually, at least visually, it makes us shift our views to something different that hopefully will make our lives much better because of the knowledge that this can bring. The first thing that we are asked all the time, us spiritists, is about good and evil. Good and evil. The people from different belief systems, they will ask us, materialistic views will ask us, how come you say God is good? There's war here, there's war there. Well, let's make things clear a little bit. So I'm just going to use my hands here to represent something. For most of the society, we see good and bad things, good and evil, as two different places, to the point that we are going to say there's a war here. Good is not here. There's no goodness here because it's war. Goodness is here. If it's here, it's not here. This is a very materialistic point of view. It's like there's a GPS that takes you to goodness and a GPS that takes you to with different coordinates that takes you to evil. That's not what it is. And if we subscribe to this idea, we're not thinking straight in terms of spiritism. And we will revolt when there's war, when there are, these awful crimes. We will revolt and rebel, just like anybody else in the society. So, good and evil, how should we see it? For most of us, we try to understand, have even an intuition of what good is based on what we know. What do we know? We are third order spirits, so we know evil a lot more than goodness and than good. Coming from evil, trying to explain good, it's very complicated. It's like you're trying to go from here all the way up, but you can't. The elevator, right, doesn't go all the way up because we are limited in our thoughts. So we are going to do, follow me here, an exercise, which is the other way around. We're going to come from top to bottom. So just think about this. Think about goodness or good over here at the top. 100%. I'm going to use percents, which is a mathematic term, to convey an idea. So over here, we have 100% of good. Come down a little bit. The more advanced spirits that you can think of or that we can imagine, and we have literature on, they are not 100%. 100% is just one, which is God. That's the absolute reference for goodness. Down here, we have maybe some 99%, which are spirits very, very, very advanced, and they reach that level, but they won't be 100%. They are not at the same level of God. So let's just say, once again, I'm using mathematical terms to convey the idea. So 99%, come down. Spirits that are 90% good all the time. Then 95, 90, 85, 80, 50, 40, 30, 20. When you get too low, you can't say goodness anymore because you have a vocabulary problem. How can you say that this person here is good and you say that this person here is also good? I mean, I wouldn't be able to explain myself properly using the same word for both. So what we do is, that's what the exercise is that we're doing now. This is good, 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 good. There's going to be a point where it flips to another word, which is evil. Then evil, 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 evil. So good and evil, good and evil, are part of the same spectrum. They are part of the same spectrum. So for those who believe and define what is good and what's evil, and they will say things like evil is the absence of good. Absence is related to a GPS, to a physical location, lack of presence. That's not what it is. Allan Kardec uses a much more, I would say, a smarter word, which is the ignorance of evil. Ignorance meaning I'm down here on my knowledge. I haven't reached this level yet. When you say ignorance, you mean you're going to get there, but good and evil are on the same spectrum. And if you come down from the top again, so good, 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 evil, 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 evil. Where is the inflection point? Where does it change for me and for you, and it's not the same? It's not the same answer. Where does it change from good to evil? Where is my inflection point? It's where I am. If I'm here, anything above is good. If I'm here, anything below is evil. And if you're here, it's a different thing, because everything over here is good and everything down here is evil. So the inflection point is not the same for everyone. However, and that's the message here, good and evil are on the same spectrum. There is no good here, evil here, or anything like that. That is a materialistic statement. So when they come to us and they want to put us against the wall and they say, well, you say God is good, and how come there's war? Because they're thinking of physical locations. God, if there's a war here, God is physically for them, not present. That's not what it is. It doesn't make sense to talk about God as if it were material. You have molecules, you have a GPS that defines your location. No. So good and evil are part of the same spectrum. And with that same reasoning, it goes for everything else. A few more examples. Wrong and right. Wrong and right. When I say to somebody, you are wrong and I'm right, stop. To begin with, to define something as wrong and right, you have to use a reference. What is the reference being used? I can use my reference as being one thing, and you can use your reference as being something else. If I am here on the scale, I use one reference. If you're here, you use another reference. So what might be right for you might not be, but might be wrong for me, and vice versa, because we don't use the same reference. We can only use the reference that we know of. If we don't know any better over here, we cannot use the reference. And that's what Spiritism is telling us. You can use the reference over here because it was given to us. That's the moral of reference that Jesus brought to us. We have that. Of course, I can use my own moral reference, but my life is going to be difficult because a lot of people are going to be wrong. Instead of right and wrong, we should think of, I know more, I know less. Not right and wrong, straight as punctual, different things. This is right and this is wrong. That's punctual. That's a materialistic view. It's not that way. And that's one of the greatest things that Spiritism brings to us, explaining all of this. I'm just putting in visual terms, but that's the explanation that the Spirits provided to us, through the codification. Here's another one. Love and hatred, same thing. Why is it so difficult to understand unconditional love? Unconditional love is here, 100%. Because we are down here trying to understand something way above us, way above. So we go from top to bottom. Love, 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 Hatred, 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 same thing. Where is the inflection point? It's where I am. If I am here, this is my inflection point. Anything down below is hatred. Anything above is love. If you're up here, it's a different story. Everything down here is hatred. Everything up here is love. But it's the same concept. It's not that love is here and hatred is here. They're not physical locations that you define with physical coordinates. And here's another one. Hopefully you got the idea so far. Heaven and hell, same thing. We shouldn't say, the same way we shouldn't say love and hatred, we should say love more, love less. That's how we understand love and hatred. Heaven and hell is the same thing. I am happier, I am unhappy. I am happy, I am unhappy. So hell and heaven and hell are states of mind. And Allan Kardec tells us that wherever we go, we take our heaven and or our hell with us, because they are not physical locations. They're not defined by physical coordinates on a GPS. It's just, so where is the inflection point from coming down from heaven to hell or from happy to unhappy? It's where I am. Here's another one, revenge and forgiveness, same thing. And here's another one, competition, cooperation. All of these things, these are only 6 examples. You can take any vices against any virtues, it doesn't matter. So what we are seeing here is that all of these dualities, each one of these double arrows is a duality. Each one of these dualities are part of the same spectrum. And we are presented with both at the level that we are. So for example, let's take love and hatred. I am presented with situations I have to face all the time, circumstances where I need to make a decision. How do I go from here? Do I respond with hatred to this situation? Do I respond with love? But you see, they're part of the same spectrum. And it's a choice, it's free will. So the idea of seeing all these things as spectrum, as a spectrum, it could change our perspective, because now you see somebody doing some evil things and we say, well, that's part of the spectrum. He's still down there. It's going to take him time to get to my level. I was there one day. So, you know, when I was there, I would probably not like to be killed by rebellion or something. So we shouldn't do the same. We should understand the situation and help him if we can. But never think of this as punctual things, independent. Good and evil are not related. Good is in this location, evil is here. Hatred is here, love is here. No, it's all part of the same spectrum. So let me bring you an example here. Let's just say that somebody comes to talk to you and they are on this level on the scale. It doesn't matter really, I picked anywhere on the scale. So right now it shows that this person, or I am, for example, in the lower range of frivolous. So somebody comes to talk to me very aggressively, to my understanding. Not necessarily, but to my understanding, this person came to me, talking to me, and I think he was or she was very aggressive. So, as a classic third order spirit, I'm going to respond with the same thing, with the same level of aggressiveness, if not more. That's very typical of third order spirits. So we respond horizontally. That's an eye for an eye. So you bring aggressiveness, I'll show you aggressiveness. That's an eye for an eye. That's not what the moral of reference brought to us by Jesus states. It states something different. You bring aggressiveness, I'm going to respond with another face of the thing. It's going to be another story. So I'm not going to respond horizontally. I'm going to go up and respond at a higher level. So you bring hatred, I'm going to respond with the equivalent on the same spectrum. You bring hatred, I'm going to respond with love. And so for every vice that they bring to us down here, we respond with the corresponding virtue on the same spectrum. That's what the idea of the other cheek or the other face of things that Jesus taught us applies. However, for us to do this, we have to be able to, quotes please, place ourselves up there. And then we can understand this with a simple phrase that I'm going to put here. We should live up to what we can be instead of living up to what we are. If we live up to what we are going to always be here. If we live up to what we can be, we are going to go here, which is the vertical, the other cheek idea, the other face of things. So we have to raise up on the scale. Every time we exercise this, how am I going to respond? Do I want to play an eye for an eye right now, or do I want to be higher? And we are presented with these things several times in our life, several times a day, situations where we have to respond. So we can stay on this level, but we shouldn't. We should place ourselves here, think first, place ourselves here and say, this is going to be my response. What is the equivalent on the top or higher, let's say, in the spectrum that I can reply to this particular situation? And that's how we exercise our way of thinking as a true Spiritist. That's gonna, at one point, things start to get automated in our perispirit. They will be automated. So we are not gonna have to, okay, this person came this way. Let me stop and think. Okay, I need a couple of minutes here to see what I'm gonna do. Let me see what my strategy is gonna be. There's gonna be a point where we don't need this. Can you imagine people, coming to Jesus and everybody against him, those who were against him, and he would just have to listen. I'm going to sit down here and I need time to see what I'm going to do. Let me see if I do some charity. There is no such a thing. It's automated. Because all these an eye for an eye situations were long gone for him. We can do the same and much more. That's what he said. You can do the same things I do and many more things you can do. It's up to us. It's up to us. So that's the general idea of how should we use the spirit scale on my favor. Where am I? Am I still all the way down? Am I in the middle? And if I'm in the middle, I can do better. If I'm all the way down, I can do better. Nobody's saying this is easy. That's not what it is. It's not easy. So I want to bring some 6 situations where we can use the spirit scale in our favor, with the exercising, the quick exercising that we played here. So number 1, a situation of hatred. Somebody comes to us, that's the one we just spoke about. A lot of hatred, a lot of they come aggressively, in any of its forms. Hatred has many forms. It can be a simple fight, a simple aggressiveness, but it can be bullying, it can be terrorism. This is all hatred. So it has several nuances. So in any of them, what do we do here? In the Gospel according to Spiritism, on chapter 10, item 4, Allan Kardec writes a very interesting phrase. Quote, hatred and rancor denote a soul that is neither advanced nor great. End quote. So if I do an eye for an eye, when somebody comes with hatred, I am denoting a soul, meaning I am presenting myself as a soul that is not advanced nor great. Is it nice? No, it's not. I should ask myself, is this the best I can do? No, it's not. Because I have the moral of reference. I have to respond within the same spectrum, but higher. So you bring hatred, I'm going to reply with love. Not necessarily unconditional love because it's too high, but some form of love. So this is one situation. Here's another situation. Domestic violence. It's sad that we still have something like this happening in our society, and it does happen a lot more than we can probably get from the news. Anyhow, domestic violence. So there wasn't the guy was aggressive. He did something. So you get the guy and you come to him and you ask him, why did you do this? And regardless, the answer is all the same, because I love this woman. Hold on. How come you love this woman? You see, for him, he loves this woman. We cannot interpret this as he loves this woman. This is why we can't use the same word. For him, for his level, his understanding, he's here. For his level, he absolutely loves this woman. Put him on the lie detector, he's not lying. He's here telling the whole truth, nothing else. You see how the mechanism works. So when you are up here and you got the news of some domestic violence somewhere, what you gonna do? You're gonna kill the guy? No, you can't do that. Because we did this several lives ago, many incarnations ago. Maybe some of us are still doing it. So he is within the spectrum of love, but he's still ignorant. He's still in the beginning of it. He's still developing that love that one day will be unconditional. That guy one day is going to be the governor of a planet. He's far from it. Here's another situation. We don't mean to talk about politics the way we know, but when we express our views in a society through elections mostly, think about this. There are two things that we need to think about here. First is, what happens if we elect or select? And we're not talking about presidential elections. It's any election, a small group, a city, a state. It doesn't matter. It could be a small group of 10 people. If you elect someone who is impure or very low on the scale, what do you think is going to happen when that person takes power? When that person becomes starts to exercise his elected rights? He's going to do things that impure spirits do. It's not going to be fun. So when we select somebody, when we elect somebody, we should vote not as people and citizens only. We should vote as immortal spirits. If I vote as a person, I might be restricting my interest to the rest of my life, which could be 10 years, 20, 50, we don't know. So, this guy is going to bring this, is going to be very beneficial for me for the next 10 years. Oh yeah, for 10 years, I think I'm still here. So yeah, regardless of the moral standards, we should vote as immortal spirits, in which you pick those who you're going to select and or elect based on moral standards. How close are they to the moral of reference? Because if you elect somebody, let's just say, who is wise, closer to the top of the scale, we're going to have a very organized, very nice society or group. So this is something that we need to think about. Vote as immortal spirits, which is something that Spiritism teaches us. We are immortal spirits. We're going to be back in 3, 4, 5, 6 generations ourselves. Here's another one, suffering. It is natural for third order spirits to suffer all the time, or most of the time. Spirits in the shades of red suffer all the time, and for different situations. And they suffer more as further down they are on the scale. Impure spirits suffer all the time. Good spirits, the green guys and pure guys, they don't suffer. They don't suffer. They live with the circumstances, the situations, but they don't suffer. And then in the book, What is Spiritism? Allan Kardec puts a very interesting phrase. This is on item 132 of What is Spiritism? This is what it says, quote, through the contact of their vices, there is the spirits, through the contact of their vices, they make themselves mutually unhappy and punish one another. So why do we suffer? Because we are punching somebody with our vices. They punch back. We suffer. It's action and reaction. So third order spirits have a very hard time understanding this, that the practice of these vices and all of these things creates a snowball that comes back to us. It's a boomerang effect. We should never do this. We should never respond at the same level, an eye for an eye. We should respond upper on the same spectrum. Here's another situation, the loss of loved ones, which I believe most of us on earth have a hard time coping with, dealing with. It's not easy. But think about this. If you wouldn't have to go higher on the scale for a new view on this thing. Let's try to, for a minute, to go higher on the scale. The person who died, our loss, our loved one who passed away, discarnate, they did this because they terminated, they finished one of the stages that they had to go through. So we'll have to do the same thing one day ourselves. They will be advancing somehow at their pace, but they will be advancing to a higher level. If we don't want them to ever die, if we don't want them here with us when they are 300 years old, 400 years old, we are preventing them from going to their next level. Think about this. Letting go is the easy part. Holding on is the hard part. Third order spirits try to hold on all the time because of lack of understanding. And if we hold on all the time, we keep kind of pulling this loved one back to us here. They want to go, they need to go, they need to detach, to go ahead, to go fly above all of this. If we don't let them, we are, in a way, indirectly, we are making them suffer. Every time we make somebody suffer, we will have to offset at one point somehow. So we should see the loss of loved ones as a good thing in the way that they will be able to jump on to hopefully a next level. So let's just celebrate their lives, the opportunity they had, and just pray for them, not keep pulling. And 10 years later, we're still suffering and pacing, waiting for them to come back. That's horrible. We can't stop our lives because of that. We deserve to keep going with our lives as well. So the loss of loved ones is a little challenging for us. Nobody's saying that's easy. But, you know, with the understanding of where we are on the spirit scale, you could change. So if I'm down here on the scale, down here, and, you know, someone, my loved one, passes away or discarnates, why can't I react as if I were here? As if I were higher? We can. It's just that, you know, we are influenced by material life, which predominates over spiritual life. So material life is down here. So the loved one passes away, we want them back. We want the physical person with us because we are living this material life down here. If you're here, it doesn't even make sense to be willing that physical body is here with us as they were yesterday and 3 days ago and so on. So those are all nuances that Spiritism, little different views, viewing from another angle that Spiritism brings. And I think it's easier a little bit if we look at the scale all the time, trying to place ourselves. And here's the last one. Nobody starts as pure. We all started the same way, simple and ignorant. So we have to run through each spectrum. All of us. There is no chance that I'm here today, let's say frivolous, I go to sleep tonight, tomorrow morning, I am wise. There is no such a thing. It's a spectrum that we have to go through, all of us. So, in thinking about this, which is one of the Spiritist pillars, the spiritual evolution, in order to be patient, I have to have been very extremely impatient, then a little bit less, then less, then less, and now I'm patient. In order to be tolerant, I had to have been one day very intolerant, then a little bit less, and here I am very tolerant. So we can say that the seeds of good are in the necessary evil. That's why we call necessary evil. These are stepping stones. We need to go through this to make wrong choices all the time, and then flip over next time to the right choice. And then in all different spectrums, there's a spectrum for patient impatience, tolerance, intolerance, good and evil, right or wrong, and so on, so on, so on, so. So that's how we get better, by making choices. If we get it wrong, next time we're going to make it better. So the seeds of perfection are all the way down in the necessary evil. That's why they are called necessary evil, not evil because I want to do evil. Not really that. So Spiritism brings a new view on classic concepts. We spoke about heaven and hell, we spoke about good and evil, these things that if you go back to the classic concept of these things, you will be tied to a GPS, to physical locations, to physical events, to punctual events that are mutually exclusive, right? For example, if you're in heaven, you cannot be in hell and vice versa, because you're looking at this punctual. No, they're part of the same spectrum. So thank you very much. This is what I want to bring for our discussion. We will be here for comments, questions, suggestions, if any. Thank you very much. Peter, take from here.
Thank you, LUIZ, for sharing your reflections with us. Okay, we are now open for comments and questions from the audience. First one is from the United States Spiritist Federation. LUIZ, what is the relationship between the development of our intelligence and our morality? Is one more important than the other?
Yeah, important is not the word, but one precedes the other. On the Spirit's book, we are going to see, it's very clear, by the way, when Allan Kardec writes about and the Spirits, of course, write about the law of progress, they will say that, there is moral progress and intellectual progress. Mm-hmm. And he actually asks that to the Spirits, which comes first? And the Spirits are very, very straightforward. No room for, questions. They will say intellectual progress comes first, because then you have a better discernment on how to make your moral choices. So if I have a better ability, which is the intellectual ability, if I have a better ability to look at the situation, this is right, this is wrong, this is A, this is B, I'm going to make a better discernment. I'm going to have the opportunity to make a better discernment and make my choices better. So intellectual comes first, not that it's more important.
Right. That makes sense because our intellectual progress can take us in all kinds of different directions, which then bring up moral questions.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, next question from the U.S. Spiritist Federation. If most spirits on the planet are third order spirits, are there signs of that changing nowadays?
Okay, let me elaborate on this a little bit. This is not a black and white. There's not a line that divides, for example, at the bottom of the scale, impures down here and frivolous down here. This is not it. This is a spectrum, okay? We have 5 categories of worlds designed by how to house spirits according to their level of evolutions. So the bottom category of worlds is primitive worlds, in which you have mostly, the great majority, impure spirits. The second category is trials and expiations. That's us. The majority are the other shades of red. However, on planets of trial and expiations, hey, we are here, right? We have impure spirits and we have good spirits. So there's some overlapping in there. So how come, what is the purpose of having impure spirits living among spirits that are on trial and expiations? Because they are given the opportunity to see and know better. They will be given the opportunity to look at this and say, wow, this is better than I knew. I'm having a hard time, but this is better. It's really very difficult. I'm putting my head above the water here, but it's better. They will see better. They can use that as a reference. And the same way, spirits at a higher level will come down to trials and expiations, planets of trials and expiations, to lift us up, to show that, you know, we can do better. So there's a little bit of like an overlapping in there. So yes, these impure spirits, they will be here on earth for a while. Impure spirits, you know, they're one of the main characteristics of impure spirits is cruelty. That's probably the main. Then I ask you, do we see cruelty here on earth? Turn on the news in the last 3 weeks. You don't have to go much further. So we do have still impure spirits here with a purpose. You might not like it. I might not like it. But, you know, this is a much higher thing than just look at this as a punctual fact. See, let me look at that one spirit right there on that day at that time. That's not how we see it. All these impure spirits are going to be governors of planets one day.
Answers are good points, and encouraging that more advanced spirits are among less advanced spirits.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Andre Belavqua. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. How can Spiritism's belief in reincarnation influence an individual's approach to personal growth and moral development?
Yeah, that's one of the purposes of reincarnation, by the way. It's the gift that we are given to advance a little bit at a time. You see, if we had to advance today, let's just say, to make it easier, let's just say we are neutral. If we had in one lifetime to become pure, it would not be possible, because we would have to get rid of all the impurities that we still carry as a neutral spirit and acquire all possible virtues, 100% of them, to become pure. That's not feasible. So we cannot do this in one shot. So we have to do in installments. Each installment is a reincarnation. So we come in, we have the opportunity to grow, to go through new experiences, learn from them and grow, and so on and so on. So, however, I can come down here having in mind that I'm going to come down to be better on this particular thing, and I do other things that are not good because I'm still a third order spirit. So, that's gonna have to be offset at one point. That's why it's such a slow process, because we not only come to get rid of the impurities, we generate new ones.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Also from Andre. What role does self-forgiveness play in the process of spiritual evolution according to the Spiritist doctrine?
Self-forgiveness is a starting point. It's not all of it. It's a starting point. You have to forgive yourself, first of all, by understanding where you are. We know more or less where we are because we know ourselves to the point that is enough for us to place ourselves somewhere on the scale. And self-forgiveness means, okay, I've been doing this thing wrong. I was a bunch of wrongdoings. Stop. We're going to take responsibility on all of this. Let's forgive ourselves. And now we're going to go towards a different goal, which is not doing evil. Not anymore. Third order spirits, remember, propensity to do evil. So I'm going to stop my propensity to do evil. I'm going to be more conscious about my choices, and I'm going to be making better choices. But self-forgiveness is what triggers the process. If you don't forget yourself, you're going to be, if you don't forget anybody, you still have some sort of hatred, rage, whatever within, including yourself. So you're still down on the scale if you have those feelings. The sentiment has to change by self-forgiving yourself.
And certainly forgiveness is a major cornerstone of Christianity. So it's very, very important. Absolutely. Okay. Another question from Andre. How can one distinguish between authentic spiritual guidance from higher spirits and one's own desires or ego?
Yeah, you can tell. For example, let's say you are in a situation and you have to make a choice, this one or this one. You absolutely know what is right and what is wrong. We know. We still propense to choose the wrong one. Okay, that's one thing, but we know what is the right one. So if you have this voice in your head telling you do the wrong thing because it's it's going to give you, it's going to be more profitable in the next year, profitable of any form, not necessarily money, but it's going to put you in a better situation in 1 or 2 years. You know it's wrong. So you know that the influence, it's not coming from a good spirit. It's coming from a spirit that is, to say the least, at the same level that you are. Because you see, every time we have to make a choice between, let's just put it this way, honesty and dishonesty. Okay? So if you still have to think about, should I take this money or not? Should I take this bribe or not? If you're still thinking about it, you're still in conflict. So both are still possible, regardless of the outcome. Let's say that the outcome is at the end you decide not to take the bribe, for example. So, oh yeah, I did the right thing because I didn't take the bribe. However, you were sweating, cold and warm and all kinds because you were in an internal conflict, because both of them were still possible. Remember the dualities. One is at the top of the scale, the other is at the bottom. They are in the same spectrum. When you go over this, so honesty, dishonesty, when you transcend that duality, dishonesty is no longer possible. So you look at the situation from a different point of view. Let's say, for example, a simple example. Let's say that somebody puts a stack of $100 bills. Let's say 1,000 $100 bills. That's a lot of money. And you're alone. They leave you alone. No cameras, no surveillance cameras, no nothing. You can do anything you want. If you look at that and you're still sweating and say, oh my God, I could take this. If I take this money, I can buy this, I can do this. Oh my God, but I shouldn't be doing this. Wow, I shouldn't. You see, there's a tremendous conflict because you had not yet transcended the duality, honesty, dishonesty. If you had transcended that duality, you would look at the pile of bills and you would say, put your two hands on your head and say, oh my God, somebody forgot this money over here. We need to find the owner. The person might be completely desperate. You see, on the first situation, you were thinking about yourself. On the second, you were thinking about them, your neighbor. You see the shift? So the dualities, all of them, alcoholism, sobriety, whatever it is, patience, impatience, they will go away when we shift from us to the neighbor. And that's part of the process, going through all these things and learning how to be less impatient, less intolerant. That's part of the process.
Pardon me. Thank you. These are great questions. Okay, let's see what we have next. This is from the United States Spiritist Federation. Will those who seek more disharmony and destruction be allowed to prevail?
It's an interesting question. Define prevail, because if you see prevail as punctual, disharmony and destruction prevails today. Mm-hmm. If you look at the big scale, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. So if you look at third order spirits, yes, it prevails. Now, when you look at from the top, second order spirits and higher, it doesn't prevail. It has moments of challenging, but it never prevails. Mm-hmm. You see, it depends on where you are when you respond to, when you think about these things.
Mm-hmm. That's encouraging. Okay. This question's from the U.S. Spiritist Federation. We seem to have a natural instinct to pursue the good. Why is that? Is it just about survival of our species? Or do we possess a deeper need that we cannot avoid?
You see, we know what's right and what's wrong. So pursuing the good, it's something natural because we know the law. We do know the moral of reference. We might rebel against it and do the wrong things, but we know what it is. So it is a natural instinct to be better, to do things better, to use that moral of reference in my own favor, meaning I'm going to do the right thing. So yes, we do have this pursuit to do good. However, going back, for the guy down here, what is to do good? And for the guy here, what is to do good? Let's come back here. If you ask a terrorist the question, do you think what you're doing is right? Not only he's not going to answer the question, but he's going to go like, oh, what do you mean by that? You see, because at this level, the question doesn't make sense. Of course he's doing the good thing. That has to be understood. That's why the spirit scale is probably the best hidden tool in Spiritism. They are responding here.
Okay, great answer. Thank you. I believe this will be our last question from the United States Spiritist Federation. How does free will change with a transition in hierarchy among spirits?
Yeah, free will plays a role in everything because we all have free will. So the pace that I choose by free will to be on this road, the pace that I choose to go up on the scale is completely on me. It does not depend on anybody else. It's only on me. So I have free will that I can use and say, on this particular lifetime, I don't want to improve one bit. I want to get in and out exactly as I was. And that will be. There is no divine decree that will make me or force me to improve. It's free will. We don't go back. We do not unlearn what we learned. We can't do this. If you know how to read, you cannot unread a phrase. That's not possible, right? So yes, but it's on our own pace. So free will plays a big role because it's choice. That's why question 121, Spirit's book, Kardec talks about this, and the spirits will say, well, some of the spirits advance faster because of the others, because they decide through free will to do more good than evil things. And some others decide to do more evil things than good. It's not decided for them. They decide. We decide.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're actually going to sneak in one more question because we don't want to let go of you just yet, LUIZ. So here's a comment. Natra non faci saltim. Here we go. This is from Celso Loreda. The phrase above is a maxim that expresses the idea that natural things and their properties change gradually in a continuum rather than suddenly.
Yeah, that's talking about material things. Yeah, things change even at the material level, because matter doesn't change by itself. It needs an intelligent principle behind it, making or causing these changes to take place. And yes, as the intelligence advances, as the the intelligent principle advances, you will be able to do more things. So at its early stages, the intelligent principle is able to create things such as the animal kingdom, the plants kingdom, but then it will advance and it will create in the next level up, which is us, the humans. So yeah, it's a slow process.
Okay, thank you, LUIZ, and thank you everyone who watched today's talk live and those who have been supporting the Spiritist Talk series. Next Saturday, we will have Marcia Trajano talking about freedom from guilt. LUIZ, before we close the live, can you do a prayer for us, please?
Sure, absolutely. So let's thank our Master and Guide Jesus, who brought us the moral of reference, something we should all abide to and go by, with the purpose of make our lives better and the lives of our brothers and sisters better. Thank you, Jesus, for all the teachings that you brought to us, what you showed us when you were among us, that your light can reach those in hospitals, many of them not understanding their conditions, in rebellion against life, that your light can soothe them. And same for those in prisons, in states of deep revolt, that they can use your light and your fluids to soothe their hearts. They can understand their condition and change their lives around, start doing better things towards the moral of reference. Thank you so much, and be it.